Hey everybody, welcome back to another week here at ReEngage, and I am joined tonight by some long-time leaders, since the beginning of ReEngage at Hope Fellowship, long-time leaders at ReEngage, Steve and Sheryl Marusic. So Steve and Sheryl, thank you guys so much for joining us and taking the time to talk to us a little bit tonight. It's very nice of you guys. So yeah, so I had a few questions here planned for Steve and Sheryl, and so the first question is, you guys have been through ReEngage and led several groups. And kind of had that unique experience because going over the curriculum over and over. So what has ReEngage kind of meant to you guys personally?
One of the things we discovered as we went through the ReEngage class itself is how much it altered the way we interact with each other in conflict. So one of the biggest things for me personally was the lesson on grace and how we are to extend grace to each other, and specifically with our marriage relationship. Being able to extend grace has completely changed the way we interact with each other when there's conflict. And for me personally, that's probably the biggest change that has happened in my relationship with Sheryl.
Yeah, I would agree. When we first started, we were doing the training to become leaders, and we came in, I think we rated our marriage 9. I mean, we thought we had a pretty good marriage.
We were perfect.
And the level of communication that we experienced through ReEngage process, well, actually each time we've led a group too, has been amazing. And I think in terms of grace, we were the classic, I was the escalator, he was the withdrawer. And we've learned to not do those anymore. In fact, I guess in conflicts and things like that, we can't even remember the last time, because we do give each other grace, and before anything starts, we both go to the Lord, and so that's how it's impacted our lives.
That's awesome.
We're actually in our 6th ReEngage group, and with each one, we feel like we've grown and changed every time we go through it. It's a new experience, and things that would have taken days literally to get through might be minutes at this point to really just get through a conflict and come out the other side well. The other thing I can say, and I think I can speak for both of us, this has actually become a ministry for us now. So what's really been amazing about the process is coming from the backgrounds we both come from, because we both come from a divorce background, ReEngage has brought us to this place where we feel like we're in the place where the Lord wants us right now. And it's really because we went through that first ReEngage class, we were transformed ourselves. And we saw that, hey, this is a way we can kind of pay back what happened to us in terms of trying to help other marriages get through those rough times and come out the other side, which we weren't able to do, but realizing that it can be done and trying to help people to do that. That's been a really big part of what ReEngage has done for us.
That's awesome. And so, so sounds like what you guys are saying is like, here we experience conflict in this way, and now we've learned some skills where conflict doesn't have the power, the impact, the massive impact that it once did. It can be controlled a little bit. But you did mention something about you've learned to extend grace. And so, we didn't talk about this question beforehand. So now you're on the spot. But like, how would you define there? What does that look like for you practically in your marriage? Like when you say like, how do I extend grace to this person? How can we do that a little bit better? What have you learned through that about grace?
Well, I know for me, the whole thing of staying in your circle, I think that adjustment in my thinking to look inside myself of what's going on instead of looking outside of what I'm doing or not doing. And I think that's helped me not put kind of blaming him for things or putting expectations on him. And also, I guess grace too is knowing that he's on his journey, I'm on my journey. God's extending me grace, and I've learned he's extending me grace, then I should be extending my husband grace too.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times I figure the Holy Spirit's working in her just like he's working in me. And sometimes that allows me to just know that, and I've seen Sheryl change over the years over and over again. So I don't feel this need to alter her behavior, change her in any way, because I know she's changing anyway, and she's getting better all the time, just in terms of,
Are you getting better too?
I'm not getting any better. Cheryl's definitely getting
That's helping everything.
I see her getting better, so I can trust that the Lord's working in her and the Holy Spirit's working in her.
Yeah.
Just like He's working in me.
So it comes down to a little bit of trust, like, hey, I can trust God to work in this other person, and I'm just going to trust that. So I'm just going to make sure that I keep changing, because that drawing the circle thing that was a game changer for me. I don't know. It's like, I don't know why I didn't have that mentality before, that I can't change another human being. And so that was just everything. And so, and since you guys have led so many groups at ReEngage, I think right now you're kind of the front runners of ReEngage groups at Hope Fellowship.
That's our goal.
That's the goal, yeah. Not to help people, but to win the contest. What are some lessons that as you've worked with other couples, what are some things that maybe you could take from working with all these couples to help us? Like, have you seen certain behaviors or certain actions or attitudes that other couples have had that's helped them move through this process of change a little bit better? Is that a fair question?
Sure. Did you want?
Well, one thing we've seen, there's a big difference in couples who are really committed to doing the lessons and doing the lessons with each other. There's definitely their marriage, their lives change, and their marriages definitely get better if they do that. Couples who weren't doing that, they didn't have as much success. But do you want to add?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of couples who are really in trouble come through the class, and by going through the book, by talking, ultimately they work it out. But one of the biggest things I think we've seen is the people who aren't just committed to the book, that are also committed to their personal relationship with the Lord, have the biggest change. Just one couple, I'll give an example. One couple in particular, he actually had this experience with the Lord that literally changed him in a day, in a moment, really. And it was his experience in listening to worship music. He was actually in his car, and they were on the verge of divorce. They were both talking to lawyers. That's how close they were to divorce. And he just had this encounter with the Lord that completely transformed him. And he came in and started talking to his wife. Immediately, everything changed between them. So those kinds of experiences are possible. That's not necessarily typical, but that slow growth with the Lord, where you learn who you are and you learn who the Lord is, really, I think, is the transformative power that happens in ReEngage.
Yeah, I think that's great thoughts and advice, like, because I've seen that too, is the couples that come in and kind of commit to doing the homework and not just showing up for group. That seems to kind of open the door. And then I think that other piece is just so vital. It's like, again, I can't change this other person. I'm going to work on my relationship with God and grow in that grace and that strength. That's just so vital. And so, yeah, I've seen that too. And that's everything. So it's almost like couples kind of need to count the cost a little bit before, like, hey, I'm going to make sure that I'm all in, and I'm not just going to show up, but I'm going to do the homework and I'm going to work on me throughout this process.
But we try to help couples understand that if they're working on their relationship with the Lord and growing in that even if the circumstances didn't change, they would have a lot more peace and they would have healing in their lives. So we try to really help them along that. A lot of couples come in that don't really have that yet in their lives, and we've seen many couples start to grow in their own individual walk, and then they start to come together and praying a little bit together and doing things together.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I have one last question here for you guys. So you guys have both been married before, and so this is your second marriage. And so now that you're really finding a thriving place in this relationship, because we have a lot of couples that come through that are in a similar situation, what advice would you give to couples as they kind of begin to work on that second or even third marriage, as they kind of go through that?
I think one of the things to keep in mind, if you're talking about people who are first going into it, is anywhere you go, you're there, right? So in your second marriage, you carry all the same stuff into that marriage that you had in your first marriage. So I think the expectation has to be, whatever it was I was dealing with in my last marriage, I need to continue to work on, and I need to see as a potential problem, because I'm still me, I'm still who I always was, unless I did some counseling or had some experience with the Lord, it has changed that part of me. I'm still going to walk into that second marriage with all that same stuff that I'm carrying with me. And I think sometimes we see that in ReEngage with couples who are in their second marriages, is they're expecting it to be this whole new thing because it's this whole new person. But the reality is, it comes down to me. It comes down to who I am and what my behaviors are.
And what I would add to that, coming from a divorce background, when you pretty much probably everyone, when we divorced, we were self-centered and selfish, thinking only about ourselves, and which is the world's way of looking and functioning in marriage. But when being in this marriage and understanding that the kingdom, God's ways of a marriage is so different, you need to come in that looking at serving your spouse. That it's all about, serving and loving them, and not trying to live according to the ways of the world. That was the game changer for us.
Yeah. And so, again, drawing that circle is kind of what I heard there. And also realizing that, man, a lot of the ways we think about marriage probably are a little bit selfish ways. And that's one of the beautiful things about this process is we're kind of learning how to think in more of a kingdom way about marriage. And when you start to think that way, it's like, it's really is a big game changer, because the other way almost is like, it's never going to work that way. It's just going to keep running into a wall. But this way you kind of find a way to kind of find some peace and find some wholeness in your marriage, which is very, very cool. So,
Right.
yeah. Well, man, thank you guys for all the hours, all the years now of serving couples and working on your own marriage at ReEngage. And so, Steve and Sheryl, obviously you mean the world to me, and I know you mean the world to all these couples that have come through the program. And so I just wanted to take this time to honor you guys and say thank you for serving these couples and for serving God in the way that you have over the last few years. I appreciate it a lot. So.
Well, thank you. It's been a blessing and honor for us to be part of this ministry, to be in these couples' lives. I mean, we just meet so many wonderful people. So we feel blessed that this is not something we ever saw ourselves doing, coming from a divorce background, but it's been wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you guys. All right.
And we love you too, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Try to stay safe over there. And
You too.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. God bless.
Bye.